Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take topics you're interested in, really get into the source materials you send us, and pull out the key bits of knowledge.
Yep, the idea is to get you informed quickly, maybe spark a few of those aha moments along the way.
Exactly. And today we're zoning in on Dominik Szoboszlai, specifically his role and, his impact at Liverpool now under Arne Slot.
That's right. We've got a good mix here, some recent articles, fan chats, things, what have you shared. Our goal is to really unpack how his position seems to be changing and what that actually means for Liverpool.
For you, the listener, maybe you want some insights for chats with your mates, or you just want a solid handle on it. We're aiming to give you that clarity, those interesting bits without, getting bogged down in too much detail.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Szoboszlai arriving summer of 2023. That was a big one, wasn't it? 60 million pounds?
A hefty price tag, yeah. It definitely signaled a midfield rebuild under Klopp at the time, especially with players leaving.
And he hit the ground running, didn't he? Scored pretty early on against Aston Villa, Leicester City.
Oh, yeah. Those goals definitely got people talking. I remember reading one source describing them as, having a bit of a 90s or 2010s feel. Proper midfield strikes.
Showed that attacking threat from deeper positions. Absolutely.
And then there was the shirt number, taking number 8. That's Gerrard's number.
Huge boots to fill. And while Szoboszlai seemed okay with the comparison, understandably, he also made it clear he wanted to be his own man at Anfield.
Which is fair enough, but that number 8 definitely carries weight.
No doubt. But then, things change. Arne Slot comes in, and the tactical setup shifts.
Right. Slot seems to really favor that 4-2-3-1 formation that's different from Klopp's usual 4-3-3.
Right, it is. And a key difference is that it brings in a more defined role for an attacking midfielder. The number 10.
Which immediately sparked debate, didn't it? Who gets that spot? Szoboszlai, maybe Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones.
All contenders, yeah. But interestingly, that first game under Slot against Ipswich, Szoboszlai was right there, number 10.
And he got an assist for Salah, too, I think.
He did, yeah. So that was maybe a bit of a statement of intent, perhaps, or just the first experiment.
But it seems the way he's playing that role isn't quite like a traditional playmaker just sitting in the hole.
That's what the analysis suggests, yeah. It seems more fluid. Some are saying that in today's game, that number 10 often needs the engine of number 8 anyway. They can't just be static.
Okay, so less Riquelme, more dynamic. It's about covering ground, too.
Exactly. It's broader responsibilities. So let's dig into that, his actual tactical role and style under Slot.
Okay.
Well, one thing jumps out from pretty much all the sources we looked at. His work rate. It's phenomenal.
Slot's comments really stand out there. Unbelievable, highest standard, high praise.
Absolutely. And that energy is apparently vital for how they want to defend, especially the high press.
Yeah, I saw that mentioned. He almost becomes like a second forward when they press, doesn't he? Pushing up alongside the striker.
Right. It can look like a 4-4-2 or sometimes even a 4-2-2-2 shape when they're trying to win that ball back high up.
But it's not just about the high press, is it?
No, he's also got the discipline and, frankly, the stamina to drop back, support the midfield pair Gravenberch-McAllister, and crucially, cover for Trent Alexander-Arnold when he bombs forward.
So he's covering a massive amount of the pitch defensively.
He really is. The heat maps apparently show him all over.
But he's not just a runner. What about going forward?
Definitely not just a runner. He's got that freedom from midfield to get forward, support the attack, use his technique. He's not just looking for the final pass. He's a threat himself.
Okay.
And get this, one source pointed out, he ranks 3rd in the whole team for expected goals, or XG, only behind Salah and Diaz.
Wow, 3rd. For a midfielder, that's really high. That tells a story about where he's getting into.
It really does.
Yeah.
Especially given maybe some early questions about his end product. It shows intent and positioning.
No. That Anfield Index YouTube analysis you mentioned, they went deep on the stats, didn't they? What did they pull out?
Yeah, they did. They noted he's played a lot of minutes, nearly 1,600 already. And importantly, he gets a high number of touches inside the opposition's penalty box.
Again, that supports the idea he's getting forward into dangerous areas.
Exactly. And he also had the highest total shots among Liverpool's midfielders.
Which links directly back to that high XG figure you mentioned, 5.45 for a midfielder. So he's getting in position and taking shots.
Precisely. His passing is pretty tidy, too, around 85% success rate. But there was an interesting contrast they drew out.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, the win rate when he starts is slightly lower compared to when McAllister starts, around 70%.
Huh, okay.
But the team's expected goals scored per game is higher when Szoboszlai starts, roughly 2.3 compared to 2.06 with McAllister.
That is interesting. So maybe his style leads to more overall attacking threat, potentially more goals scored on average, but maybe slightly less control or solidity sometimes. Is that a fair guess?
That could be one way to look at it, yeah. Perhaps his game is geared more towards creating those bigger chances, which might involve a bit more risk or transition play compared to McAllister's more controlling style. It's a fascinating dynamic.
Definitely. What else did Anfield Index find?
They looked at his positioning in possession. Tends to be a bit deeper on the right in the first half, then pushes more into that right half space in the second half.
So adjusting his position as the game goes on, tactical instruction maybe?
Could well be. Exploiting space, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
They also broke down his roles, mostly midfielder, obviously, but occasional stints as an attacker or even forward. Shows his versatility again.
And who does he link up with most?
Key passing combos highlighted were Gravenberch, maybe for keeping possession, Salah for those attacking forward passes, and Alexander-Arnold, linking up down that right side to start attacks.
Makes sense. And off the ball.
Just reinforces what we said. Covers a huge area, lots of support for the right back. And interestingly, they noted his peak threat period seems to be the last 15 minutes of the first half.
Right before halftime. Interesting. Okay, so that's the tactical analytical view. What about the fans? How are they seeing him? Reddit can be quite candid.
Chuckles slightly. It certainly can be. And yeah, the fan discussions show a bit of an evolution. Initially, there were definitely some doubts, some people questioning if his output, goals and assists matched the effort.
Which is understandable, right? Work rate is great, but attacking mids are often judged on numbers.
Totally. But the feeling seems to be shifting. There's a growing appreciation for just how much he brings overall. That energy, the pressing, it's getting a lot more recognition now.
Any fun comparisons or nicknames popping up?
Well, someone jokingly compared him to Xabi Alonso, but then immediately got shot down with Szoboszlai is way more handsome, which, suggests affection.
Chuckles. Okay, that's one way to put it.
And yeah, nicknames like Hungarian Superman, Hungarian Hunk, even stupid sexy Szoboszlai seem to be doing the rounds.
Right, okay. So definitely some warmth there now.
Seems so. And fans really notice when he's missing through injury or whatever. There's a sense among many that he's actually become a key driving force in that midfield.
And discussions about needing more goals and assists still happen, presumably.
Oh yeah, that's still there. Plus, talk about rotation, how managing his minutes, maybe rotating with Curtis Jones, impacts his consistency and fitness, given how much ground he covers.
That makes sense. You need to manage that kind of energy. So what about the view from inside the club? Slot, teammates.
Slot's been very positive, called him a bit underrated by people outside the club, but clearly rates him highly himself. He keeps coming back to that unbelievable work rate, the high-intensity running.
Has he commented on the attacking side improving?
Yes, he has. Slot acknowledged clear improvement in Szoboszlai's involvement in dangerous attacks, getting goals, getting assists as he settled in.
And Andy Robertson had something to say too, didn't he?
Yeah, Robertson mentioned Slot tweaking tactics, but emphasized that the basic shape has been consistent, with Szoboszlai in that attacking midfield role.
So Slot sees him as key to that position, it seems.
Looks that way. And that adaptability is huge, isn't it? Midfield 3 under Klopp, number 10 under Slot. He even played wide right sometimes for Leipzig.
True. And Szoboszlai himself sounds like he's happy to do whatever's needed. That quote about being willing to run all around the pitch
speaks volumes about his attitude. One article suggested the club is still figuring out exactly how to get the absolute maximum out of him, how to home him in the system perfectly.
But the general feeling is positive, that he's going to be crucial.
Very much so. The consensus seems to be he's fundamental to their plans, and if he keeps developing, keeps adding those goal involvements, he could be even more influential.
Okay, we've touched on his defensive work in the press, but let's focus specifically on that side under Slot for a moment.
Good idea. Because Liverpool's defensive numbers early under Slot have been impressive. Fewest goals conceded, most clean sheets, limiting shots.
And Szoboszlai is a big part of that.
A very big part, yes. His energy is key to initiating that press, often in that 4-2-4 shape without the ball. He closes down space so quickly.
So stopping attacks before they even really start.
That's a big part of it, disrupting the opposition's build-up. And also, his positioning helps when Liverpool go more direct. He's often in the right place to fight for those second balls in midfield.
Prevents quick counters against them.
Exactly. It mirrors that defensive solidity Slot was known for at Feyenoord.
Right, those principles carrying over. Now, this whole number 10 thing is central here. For anyone maybe less familiar with tactical jargon, what is a modern number 10? The coach's voice piece you mentioned broke it down.
Yeah, they did. They define it as that player operating in the gaps, basically, between the opposition's midfield line and the defenders, receiving the ball between the lines.
The classic playmaker spot historically, the unganch.
Kind of, yeah. That's the historical route, but the role has evolved a lot.
How so? What are the demands now?
Well, with defenses being more organized, often with deep midfielders protecting them, the modern 10 can't just drift. They need to be dynamic, contribute defensively, maybe drift wide sometimes.
So more work involved than just pulling the strings.
Much more. In possession, yeah, they still need to connect play, create chances, passes, dribbles, through balls, crosses, support the forwards, arrive in the box, offer a goal threat themselves, maybe drop deep to get on the ball too.
And out of possession, what's expected?
A lot more than traditionally. Often they're key to the press, closing down opposition defenders high up. They might need to cover wide areas if fullbacks overlap, or screen passes into the opposition's holding midfielders. It's a real two-way job now.
The article mentioned players like Ozil, Muller, Fernandes, Dybala as example.
Yes, all showcasing different aspects. Ozil's vision, Miller's movement and pressing the roundooter, Fernandes' directness and goals, Dybala's dribbling and close control. They all interpret it slightly differently, but fit that modern mold.
So what are the big advantages of having a good number 10 like that?
Well, they can unlock tight defenses by finding that space between the lines. They create chances, pull defenders out of shape, which creates space for others, and they can occupy key opposition players. Plus, they add an extra body defensively higher up or in midfield.
Sounds great. Any downsides or challenges?
There can be, yeah. You might become over-reliant on that one player's creativity. Against really compact, deep defenses, it can be hard for them to find space centrally. And crucially, if your number 10 doesn't put in the defensive work, it can leave big gaps.
Okay, so bringing it all back to Szoboszlai then, it really sounds like his skill set, the energy, the technique, the willingness to defend and attack fits this modern number 10 description pretty well.
It really does seem to align, doesn't it? Especially under Slot's system, which seems built to leverage those exact qualities. This fluid, demanding role looks like a good fit for him.
Right. So let's try and wrap this deep dive up. The main takeaway seems to be that Dominik Szoboszlai's role under Arne Slot is definitely evolving. It's dynamic. It's this number 10 position, but played with immense work rate, tactical smarts both ways, and increasingly real attacking influence.
Yeah, and hopefully, for you listening, we've helped build a picture of his importance that goes beyond just the basic stats like goals and assists. His flexibility, that ground coverage, how he contributes to the press and attack it, all highlights why he seems so valuable in Slot's setup.
So a final thought for you to ponder then, how might Szoboszlai's continued development in this specific role shape Liverpool's tactics moving forward? How might it affect their ability to break down different types of teams? Which part of his game, the pressing, the creativity, the goal threat, do you think will be the most vital for Liverpool's success in the seasons ahead?
Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us.